wanted to ask something about becoming a psychologist here. We're learning what are you doing here, and what I'm interested in is how do you do it. So I'm interested in the process of training psychologists to do this, to lead patients, and the emphasis. What are the certain points that you work while training psychologists to work here?
Look, you all know that some people are born to be psychologists, some people are born definitely not to be psychologists, and then there are some people in between. And the people that are born to be psychologists that can read and predict what someone's going to do, anticipate based on behavior they've already seen, right? Then it's a matter of individual types of training. There's group training, group dynamics training, right? There is with the piece of the inductions right before you do anything. There's family therapy pieces, right? What model are you going to use to train for that? There's pieces of certainly of individual counseling for someone with a brain injury, very different, of course, than someone without a brain injury because of reasoning and memory and other difficulties, right? There's family therapy training. And all the while, the concepts of what's the neurology that the patient brings, right? And what are the psychological features that the patient brings from before their injury, and integrating all of that. You know, you start with the bigger pieces and start melding little by little into the more specific pieces and the techniques that we do inside the program. We have students here all the time. We're very lucky to have them, and we have our interns rotating through a few hours each week. And there's a lot of discussion, a lot of talk, about the concepts and observing, right? And then, you watch, and then you do, and then you get supervised, and then you do again, right? That's the beginning of the answer to your question while standing on one foot, right?
The interesting thing about working with Yehuda is, as you might imagine, he had a very unique way of figuring out who was actually going to survive and thrive in this setting. And for him, probably he would tell you that he would look for people not so much that have the sort of classical training as people who have the ability to connect effectively with people, keep an open mind, and he was always very interested in emphasizing clinical skills, even over more traditional neuropsychological background, although that was obviously very important. And so I would say that for me it really boils down to looking for people, particularly in working with a brain injured population, looking for people who have a real passion for and a great deal of patience to be able to work with people who require so much repetition and care over a long period of time with a lot of backslides, to be able still to feel positive and hopeful for people. So for me, that's something really that I look for in somebody, this kind of passion.
I think for new staff that come on, depending on how much clinical experience they have, because everyone has a lot of experience in testing, but treatment not so much. Except that they're lucky to get it in a few places where it's available. It takes, easily a year for a person to really feel solid on the ground that they're knowing what they're doing. And the program is set up so that there's a tremendous amount of weekly discussion and planning and clinical discussion, so that we can, and supervision, so we can actually sort out, and if a person needs specific instruction about what to do next, that we can provide that in the beginning while they're here. But even, still, God knows how many times I've come to the table and said, okay, I've tried this and this, Anybody have any other suggestions here, right?
What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
Right.
Which is, and this is something that we explain to our trainees. We talk with them a lot about the benefit of a brain trust as we work. We work together. We try and meet every morning. We meet at least 2 other times for planning sessions during the week. And it's necessary because we all need to be knowing how everyone is doing, not just the people who are assigned to us, but also because many of our trainees are very challenging, and we can deal with our own countertransference issues. We need help sorting some of that out and figuring, boy, this is happening and this is how it's making me feel. What do you think? And we'll sometimes play off each other, good cop, bad cop, and ask a teammate to take someone aside and work with them and give them a certain kind of message.
The good cop, bad cop is for the patients, not for the staff.
I have a pretty basic question, I think, and I'll explain. I'm coming from a different setting. I work in a hospital, a department. Patients just arrive because of their needs. So I wanted to know about the beginning. When a patient wants to come here, is there an intake? Is there a neuropsychological evaluation? Maybe I missed it and then it was mentioned at some point.
It wasn't mentioned.
Okay, because you spoke about the amazing idea, I think, about the group interview, but I wanted to know if there's an intake with the family, that they explain what their expectations are.
Sure, yeah, I think we have to have either a neuropsychologist. If there has been evaluations, we want them before we'll see the patient. There are a lot of other kind of administrative details, but ultimately, if we're looking, if we're being referred a patient and the patient seems to be in the right time period, not too soon, and medically stable, and the patient, we have some neuropsychological or some cognitive or some speech therapy type of material that gives us some sense of their cognitive functioning level, because they have to be at least moderately impaired in terms of memory and in terms of awareness for them to meet the clinical criteria. And they have to have a significant other network, at least of decent quality, at least one person that will be responsible for helping them take what they're learning to their home environment, that will be in contact with us weekly and hopefully be here. Part of our program is to have significant others sit in as much as they can. We want them to learn. And so we meet, we'll speak with the significant other and get a feel for the individual, and then bring the individual in and
then have them observe.
And have them observe the program.
Sit at lunch, for example, with other trainees.
And then either we get one that's decent from outside and we'll supplement if we need it, or we'll do it ourselves here. And then we'll look at that, and that's a critical piece of the evaluation for admission. Without the neuropsychological evaluation, there's nothing to talk about.
And there's an intake, like one-on-one meeting?
Sure, we'll sometimes sit together, or even pull in a third staff member so they get a sense of a group. Someone had asked about peer counselors. It's not at all unusual for them. For example, we have a young woman who's several years post-injury, whose family and she are finally recognizing it would be a benefit. We've got to end.
Okay.
So we'll have that person come maybe to the mid-cycle or the end-cycle party. We may have them seated at a table for the dinner with people who are peer counselors, who have an opportunity, having been through the program, to explain to them what the rehabilitation process is like and how it's benefited them. So there are many different ways that we